Hello, okay, let's go back. So it should be okay to do now, I think. Got it. Okay, so let's just have a look if it's recording now on YouTube. I think it is. Okay, so good morning, Summit. Today's session is the last session for business law, and we've gone through 4 learning outcomes, and today's the assignment discussion. So just going back to what the learning outcomes were and what we went through, and then we can go through the assignment. Okay. So the first learning outcome was to be able to apply the main principles affecting the legal relationship between business organisation and between their consumers. So we looked at things like the legislation around consumer, the rules and regulations. We also looked at things for remedies for the consumer, but also remedies for the seller as well. We looked a little bit at the legal rules on implied terms and express terms. We looked at the Sale of Goods and Supply of Goods and Services Act 1982. Then we looked at learning outcome 2, which carried on from that. And we looked at where we were able to apply the legal rules on between consumer credit between agencies. And we looked at things like the Sale of Goods Act. We looked at hire purchase agreements. We also looked at the Consumer Credit Act 1974, which deals with consumers in regards to the finance options for purchasing goods and services, also for hire agreements, conditional sale agreements, and hire purchase agreements. So we looked at the difference between each one. We also looked at the cooling off period for agreements and looked at the default notices with reference to examples. We also looked at what an agency was and the general role of the agency. Learning outcome 3, we went into understanding the legal rules between monopolies, mergers, and between anti-competitive practices. So what we looked at here was a definition of what monopolies were, the different types of monopolies. We also looked at the different characteristics of monopolies. We looked at the Enterprise and Regulatory Reform Act 2013, and also looked at the monopolies and anti-competitive practice legislation in the UK. We referred to the Department for Business Innovation and Skills, which was by BIS, which was created in 2009 and was replaced in 2016 with the merger of Department for Business, Enterprise and Regulatory Reform, BERR, and the Department for Innovation, Universities and Skills, which is DIUS. And we looked at the main objective of BIS. We also looked a little bit on the Office for Fair Trading, OFT, and the importance and what they actually did. We also looked at the Competition Commission. And then lastly, which is learning outcome 4, we looked at the key provisions relating to intellectual property rights. So the things like the 4 types of intellectual property, like trade secrets, trademarks, copyrights and patents. Do you remember what we talked about in regard to trade secrets, Submit?
Yeah, CMA was there.
Yeah, trade secrets. If you've got a trade secret, what kind of organization? Sorry?
Cartel.
Yeah, what about Coca-Cola and things like that? The fact that the taste of Coca-Cola and their recipe. We also looked at damages under intellectual property. So we've kind of covered, the 4 learning outcomes And also, we're now going to look at the assignment, okay? So I'm just going to share the screen with you. And find the assignment. I think this is it. Okay, so we're looking at the assignment, and it's a business law level 5, 15 credits assignment. And we're looking at, you've recently been employed. So this is the different tasks that you have to undertake, okay? So you have to do these in regards to whether you want to get higher grades, you'd have to do extra. So we'll go through each one so you have a better understanding of what you need to do, okay?
Okay.
So the business law, so the task is that you've recently been employed in the commercial department of a large law firm, and you've been given a number of tasks to work in relation to different aspects of business law. So all of this will cover your learning outcome 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So the first task, can you see this, Sumit? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing.
Yeah, excellent. So the first task is business to consumer relationships. So task 1 is looking at Jason runs a second-hand car business sales. He buys cars from the auction and from private buyers and sells them on. He's not a mechanic himself, but uses a local firm to check the cars and carry out any required work. Gary buys a vehicle from Jason. Following a test drive, the vehicle originally had seat heating, but Jason tells him this is no longer working through everything, though everything else on the vehicle should be fine. Make notes for the partner on Jason and Gary's legal position in the following situations regarding the car sold to Gary. So firstly, after 2 weeks, there's a problem with the clutch, and Gary asks Jason to repair it along with the heated seats. After 7 months, there's a problem with the rear axle, and Gary thinks he may return the car and ask for his money back. Gary suffers a minor injury taking the car back to Jason because of an accident caused by a fault on the vehicle. Apparently, this type and model of vehicle has been recalled by the manufacturer for repair of this fault a year ago, but Gary's vehicle has not had the fault repaired. After 8 months, the police informed Gary that the car was stolen and its details changed so that Jason was not aware of the vehicle's history. Your notes should, so this is what you should be doing, okay, in your notes for task 1. You should evaluate when terms can or cannot be implied into the contract for the sale of the car. You should evaluate statutory transfers of legal and possessory titles. You should look at evaluating buyers and sellers' statutory remedies for breach of contracts, and you should apply principles of product liability to given scenario. So in this case, Jason and Gary's scenario, okay?
Okay.
The ones you'll be covering in this is learning outcome 1, okay? So most of the stuff in this task 1 will come out of learning outcome 1, and then you'll be looking at the elements of 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4. Do you understand that, Sumit? Yeah?
Yeah.
So you look at the scenario, it'll all be on learning outcome 1, it'll be on 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4, okay? And you'll be looking at them 4 points there. Now, if you want to get a better mark and get a merit grade, you must also include notes from the rationale for innominate terms, and that'll be learning outcome 1 and AC1 M1. Do you remember when we went through learning outcome 1, there was 1 M1? You need to be looking at that to get a merit. Okay?
Sorry, didn't get this last one.
So, you know, if you want to get better marks and you want to get a merit, okay, you need to look at that last part there. Appraise the rationale for inanimate terms, yeah? Can you see that, Sumit? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is on the slides on learning outcome 1 in 1M1. And at the heading, it should say 1M1. That means merit, okay? And that's if you do that as an extra, you will get an extra mark, okay?
Okay.
So you would get the merit, Okay, so task 2, consumer credit. So to help him sell more cars, Jason has decided to provide consumer credit through his dealership and will do so on behalf of his finance provider. He will have the authority to provide motor finance for the sale of cars. You know what motor finance means, yes? The finance will be provided by the finance company and contracts for finance will be with them. You need to advise Jason about the legal implications of offering consumer credit and his liability and responsibility as an agent of the finance company. Your notes should include, can you see this, Sumit? Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
So you should look at the differentiate between the types of credit agreements. So which types of credit agreements? Do you remember the types of credit agreements we had?
No.
It was learning outcome 2. We looked at the different types of credit agreements. Okay. So, and they're the ones you need to go through. Things like, you know, hire purchase, hire agreements, conditional sale agreements, and finance options. We looked at them in learning outcome 2. So you must look at differentiating between the terms of credit agreements. You must distinguish between actual, apparent, and implied agency. You must also evaluate the rights and duties of an agent. And this is all in learning outcome 2, okay? And you need to look at 2.1, 2.3, and 2.4 to complete this bit of it, okay? So this is task 2. Do you understand so far, Sumit? So
yeah,
task 1 is covering learning outcome 1. Task 2 is covering learning outcome 2. Okay?
Okay.
And then we've got task 3. So you've got termination and default in consumer credit. So Jason has specifically asked about what would happen if a customer purchased a car on credit and then decides they want to terminate the contract or they fail to make payments. You have been given the following hypothetically scenario to explain the situation for Jason. A customer buys a car under a hire purchase agreement for a total HP cost, including all the interest, of £8,000. This is made up of £2,000 deposit and 24 months payment of £250. The company receives a letter from the customer explaining that he has lost his job and wishes to terminate the contract. Make notes about what the consumer would need to pay. If he terminates after 3 installments before the 4th one is due, if he has paid 4 installments and the 5th and 6th are owing, and he has paid 12 installments and the 13th is owing, but the car has been badly damaged in an accident. If the same customer failed to make any payments after the 7th installment, but had not attempted to terminate the agreement, explain what action the finance company could take. And here you should look at apply termination rights and default notices to given scenario. So you'll be looking at here again, learning outcome 2, AC 2.2. Yes. So task 3 will also be covering learning outcome 2, but 2.2. And you will find this where it says the heading 2.2 in the slides. Yes.
Okay.
So once you've got access to your slides, you can look at learning outcome 2.2 to cover this termination rights and default notices. Okay. To get a distinction, you must assess the balance between the protection offered to lenders and creditors. And that's learning outcome 2D1, which means distinction 1. Okay, so the headings on the PowerPoint slides will direct you to this. So just refer to learning outcome 2.2 for task 3 and 2D1 if you want to get a distinction. Okay.
What is distinction?
That's the highest mark. So you get pass, merit, or distinction.
Okay, right, okay.
So if you do that little part there, which it says to assess the balance between the protection offered to lenders and creditors, you will be able to achieve a distinction.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Then
right.
we've got, okay, so that's a little, if you want to do that extra, to achieve the extra, then you will, you know, to achieve a better mark, you will have to do that extension activity there. Okay.
Okay,
So
right.
that's learning outcome 2 as well. Then we've got task 4, which is looking at monopolies and mergers. Okay. The law firm you work for acts for a number of large organizations. Your manager has asked you to prepare a written document explaining the legal rules relating to monopolies, mergers, and anti-competitive practices, which will form the basis of a booklet for distribution to the clients. You should use real examples to illustrate your answer. Your document should appraise the UK and EU antitrust laws. You should also evaluate the function and effectiveness of the Financial Conduct Authority and the Competition and Market Authority. You should define the dominant position within the EU common market, and you should evaluate how European Commission determines whether a corporation holds a dominant position, and you should evaluate the meaning and consequences of abuse of dominant position. Now, for this task 4, we looked at learning outcome 3. Okay? Is that okay, Sumit? So it's 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, and 3.5. You can see at the bottom, yeah? And that's to complete this first task. Now, if you wanted to get a better mark and get an extension activities and to gain a distinction, you would need to evaluate the effectiveness of regulatory bodies in preventing anti-competitive practice. And that was looking at learning outcome 3, AC 3D1. Okay, on the slides. Is that okay, Sumit?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's for learning outcome 3. What I might do is I'm just going to bring up the slides because I know you don't have access to them at the moment. So I'll bring the slides up and then you can just we can just go through them a little bit more. Okay. So task 5, this is on intellectual property report. So the firm has taken on a client, Educate Limited, who sell educational materials in paper and electronic formats across the UK and EU. They also have produced a new electronic learning device called eHomework that is a cross between an e-reader device and a tablet computer, allowing students to view e-books on one screen and type responses to questions on another screen. They sell this as putting the power of learning into the hands of the students. The company want to protect all of their intellectual property. Write a report advertising the client on the protection available for their intellectual property and remedies for infringements. Your report should distinguish the different forms of intellectual property. So what kind of intellectual property did we look at? Do you remember the different forms of intellectual property? Trademarks, trade secrets, copyright, and patents. So you need to talk about them. You need to also evaluate the value of patents and copyright protections. You need to look at appraising the remedies for patents and copyright infringements, and you need to also look at compare and contrast the protection of trademarks and business names. And that's learning outcome 4, what we did last week, Sumit, okay? And you look at AC 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and 4.4.
Okay.
Now, for this, if you wanted to gain a merit, you must also evaluate the application of copyrights to commercially sensitive short verbal text. And that's learning outcome 4, AC 4M1. So these extension activities are for you to get, you know, if you want to get an extra mark, or if you want to improve your marks from a pass to, you know, a merit or a distinction.
Okay.
Okay. So the assessment, that's for the assessor, the guidelines. So this is, so what you need to look at is these tasks here. I have got a message from Raman to say that he is sorting out your email for business law. Okay, so you've got access to these.
I just received the email now.
Yeah, oh good, excellent, thank you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you some of the actual learning outcomes, so you have a better idea, because we've been through these before anyway. If I show you them, at least you could have a better idea of what you're doing. Okay, so just give me 1
Okay,
minute.
okay, ma'am.
Just give me 1 minute. I'm going to just see if I can business law. Let's just use the example of learning outcome 1, okay? And identify in the assignment how it's going to help you and what you need to look at, okay? So,
Okay,
so if you look at, excuse me, just 1 minute. Okay, so share screen. Can you see this, Summit? Just 1 minute, Summit. Can you see this now, learning outcome 1? Yes? Summit, can you see the slides?
yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so the first bit of the slide,
Yeah.
Summit, is we need to cover 1.1 in the first task, okay? So 1.1 would be here. Can you see that? It says 1.1, apply the legal rules on implied
Yes.
terms related. So that is task 1, okay? 1.1, and we need to cover all 1.1, 1.2, yeah? Can you see 1.2, Summit, yeah? Can
Yeah.
you see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All this, and then 1.3. Yeah. Evaluate the statutory provisions. Can you see that, Summit?
Remedies. Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. Excellent. And then we cover all of them, and then we get to 1.4 there. And we cover everything in 1.4. Now, to get a merit, we need to look at 1M4, and this would be 1M4. It should be here. M4, maybe it's on the other side. Let's have a look. Maybe on learning outcome 2. Let's have a look. Minimize that. Let me open that. .2. It would be on 1.1 at the top, okay? So in learning outcome, you'd have to cover each element of that to get, to do each task. So learning outcome 1, learning outcome 2, learning outcome 3, and learning outcome 4, they all need to be covered. Now, when it says 1.1, I'll just give you an example, okay? If it says 1.1 Summit, can you see that? Yeah. Summit, can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it says evaluate.
Yeah, ma'am.
When terms can or cannot be implied into the contract for the sale of the car. So you need to look 1.1 all the way through to 1.2. You need to look at everything, not just that page. Do you understand?
Okay. Yeah.
So you need to look at everything that covers 1.1, everything that covers 1.2, everything that covers 1.3, and everything that covers 1.4. And then if you've got learning outcome 1 is where the M1 is. So you need to cover these to complete your task 1.
Okay.
When you go on to task 2, you need to look at learning outcome 2, and you need to look at the slides for learning outcome 2 to answer them questions. Okay, so let me just do a new
I have to take an answer from these slides.
Yeah, you can use these slides, but also on Moodle, you will get extra resources, additional resources that you could use as well, which will help you.
Okay, right.
Okay, Moodle has a lot of resources, and I've got I think you've got access to it now, haven't you? You will have access to that now.
Yeah, I just received now email.
Yeah, excellent. So you will have access to business law. So there's additional information on that. I will show you some additional stuff on this, okay? So if you on here, can you see this summit? Introduction and general principles.
No.
Okay, so let me stop sharing that. Just 1 minute, Summit. That's that one there. This one. So these handouts, these additional resources are on Moodle for you to get access to, okay? So you can use these to help you with your assignment. So can you see this now? Just 1 minute. Can you see it now? It's a business law fact sheet by LHS. Now, this is on Moodle, and this will also support you in regards to what you can get. Look, like implied terms, anything extra you want on it, anything in regards to remedies for buyers, but also fitness remedies, again, Unfair Contract Terms Act 1977. It will look at the acceptance of goods, supply of goods and services, so the Supply of Goods and Services Act 1982. So this will give you extra information, Summit, if you need to use it. And this is additional resources that are on Moodle for you. Okay, so you will be using what's there, and then you will, you can get your assignment looked at as well. And then if there are any improvements or anything extra, they will contact you on that.
Okay.
So Moodle, there's loads of stuff on Moodle that you can have a look at, and if you've got any questions, just email us on that Learner Work UK Varsity website, the link, and then we'll get back to you. But if you've got any issues, have you got any questions around the different tasks?
No.
Are you sure?
But can I get a sample assignment on screen?
The sample assignments, they will be on Moodle as well.
Okay.
Once you get access to Moodle for business law module, go on to Moodle and you can have a look on Moodle.
Okay, right.
So I think it's better if you go on to Moodle, check out what's on Moodle in regards to this module, and then start looking at the assignment and start doing task 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Try and work on these tasks now.
Okay,
so you've got 5 tasks. So slowly work on them. But each of the learning outcomes that we've done up to now will cover the elements of each task. And it tells you at the bottom of the assignment, like I showed you, 1.1, 1.2, 1. That covers everything. Now, the additional resources that will help you maybe to cover your assignments are on Moodle. But if you've got any issues, just email them or email me if you have any issues in regards to getting on Moodle for the business law module.
Okay,
I think you should have access to it now. Have you got any questions, any more questions or anything, Summit?
No, ma'am.
Okay, if you've got any questions, just email us. And this is our last session, so I won't be seeing you again until the next sessions. I don't know what other modules you'll be doing. So it's been lovely teaching you, Summit. And good luck with your assignment. And if you have any issues, just email us. Okay?
Okay, right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye, Summit.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.